Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we are checking out Detect My Love by MYSTA RIAS, produced by Camellia. Now, I'm pretty excited about this one. A lot of you have been recommending that I check this out. It turns out MYSTA RIAS has announced that he is going to be graduating later in August from NIJISANJI English. Which is, it's a bit sad to hear, but also, it's something that he's choosing to do. So I wish him the best with whatever he continues to work on in the future. But for now, let's just check out what both his first and his last original song under NIJISANJI is going to be. Let's just jump in 3, 2, 1, play. Okay. Ooh, I think that little like jazzy piano run, I think that might have just been a little reference to their group song. That was quite nice. It could just be, not what I was expecting. Whoa, okay. So interestingly enough, we're like suppressing the vocals quite a bit in this mix right now. So we're going very bass heavy, suppressed vocals, and then we're just kind of mixing that into the instrumental so far. And then we're kind of going for this sort of like club dance beat, I guess. And mix in with some like jazzy piano as well. Okay. so we're really just kind of mixing the vocals, and I'm having like a little bit of trouble picking up on the vocals. It's very suppressed, like into the mix. Like the main vocals, it's hard to say the main vocals like at all, because they're so mixed into the instrumental and everything. And we've got the percussive and the synth elements shooting pretty much over where the vocal is, and then we have these little like fun, like keys splattered in, and it's very Camellia. Like you could definitely tell this is Camellia just because the chaotic nature of the mix. Really, it's like this organized chaos where it's a very scattered, and you're not always sure what exactly to follow, but it still feels very cohesive in its entirety. Let's go back a bit. I do wish the vocals were a bit higher in the mix, because it is a bit hard to pick up on what he's saying, especially when on those fast, like more rap-esque parts, when we kind of get the treble tonalities in the instrumentation to, lift a bit more. Right here. Ooh, nice. We had a lift cut out, and then we used that as our new segmentation. Really, that was nice. That was a very smooth transition to a different, like, I suppose, EQ range for the vocals right there. And we had a bit of a lift in the instrumentation as well, don't get me wrong, but that was a very smooth transition there between segments. Lift, cut up, and another switch up. Slow down, okay. That was really cool. That was a really cool transition there. So not only did we go into the transition to the lift cutout, then after the cutout, we had another transition into this segment right here. We have a slowdown, we have that choral whoa, 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 and that sort of marks the transition per se. That vocal, that choral dissension right there. And nice, and you can hear that rasp in his voice and that coming out more. I do really wish the vocals were a little higher in the mix, because having that much suppression on them, it can be kind of difficult to for a song with this much impact to have, like, maybe it's just me, but I am struggling to pick up on what MYSTA is saying here, and unfortunately this video does not have English captions, so we're just kind of going off on a wing, on a whim here, or not a whim, a wing here, but let's go back a bit. I really do like that transition, because we had like a new segment with that lift cut out, and then we go into the slowdown, which leads into our next segment on that choral dissension, which is a really clean. That threw me for a loop right there, which is something I feel Camellia is good at. They're really good at just confusing the listener, and then it's just surprising the listener, really. Not so much confusing, but getting this chaotic just interjection, and then the listener like latches on to the end and they understand what happened, and it's just this cool feeling of understanding at the end. Slow down. Nice. Nice. I mean, this is like a rap song now. Like, this is like rapping now, and you know, he's doing a really solid job. And I mean, the mix, you know, like aside from my personal preference of having the vocals higher in the mix, aside from that, it's mixed beautifully. I mean, you can tell like all the layered vocals, when they come together, it's perfect. I mean, I have no complaints on the layering of the vocals, and the instrumentation itself has been amazing. I mean, the way it matches the different segments, you can hear like we have that bass cutout. Well, not only just for the transition into this segment, but also earlier as well. And then, but the cutout is different because instead of a complete cutout that we got earlier, for this transition to this segment, we had a lead-in with the more treble-focused percussive elements. So we're introducing our new percussion on that cutout, so that way when we have it sustained through our segment, it doesn't feel unnatural or sudden. It just feels like a new segment that was smoothly communicated, which is something. I mean, massive props to Camellia for that, because the way they have this chaotic nature, but they don't make it seem abrupt. They have all this chaos everywhere, but it always feels cohesive because it never feels like something is overly sudden. It feels like, you know, you've been led to the next segment, even if it's completely different, which is a masterful ability to have. And I'm loving MYSTA's like just his flow here. It's a very comfortable. Nice tempo change. Nice. I like that little vocal stutter we're getting for the interjections. Nice. Okay, so we're really pumping the bass tones here. We're just going all in on the bass boosting on this part, and then we're introducing that treble-based horn right there. Nice, that was really good. Now we had that bit of EQ shift, you could tell, because we were bass boosting it so much, and then we're kind of laying off of that to showcase the vocals more and more, and it almost creates this like reverberating echo, not an echo, more of a reverb effect on the vocals for that transition, as you can hear the synth leading up to it. Nice, you can hear that synth raise in the back and slowly getting louder and louder, and that creates this like reverberation around the main vocal. Nice, and then for the impacts, for each impact we have a big choral vocal layering for each of those, and then that leads us into the next part. So, see, these transitions, these are beautiful. I'm absolutely loving these transitions. Nice. I love how high the keys are going, because we're having the vocals go very, very, you know, it's very, very low. We're mixing that in with our bassy instrumentation, and so without those keys really covering the top of the mix, it would be a little too muddled. You know, we wouldn't have enough coverage across our mix. But because we're constantly reminding the listener of those treble tonalities in our mix, we're keeping this sustaining, just this machine chugging forward, and it's beautiful. I really, really love just the ability of this mix to just do what it wants. Really, it's so flexible. It's a very versatile mix, because at the end of the day, you know, some digital percussion, some synths, and some keys. I mean, you don't need a whole lot more than that to, and obviously, you know, we have these horn elements and these effects and stuff thrown in, but you know, for those are really the backbone of this song. And then we have MYSTA's voice almost like weaved into that synth. It feels like MYSTA's voice and the synth are kind of placed at a similar priority. Let's go back a bit. Interesting. So we had a slowdown and then went straight back up in tempo. I like how we're using the keys as well. We're using that keys to really support the tempo pickup. After that slowdown, we used those keys to keep the tempo climb back up. That was really nice. Nice. Introduce our rap-esque climb. I mean, that was just a rap climb. That wasn't even rap-esque. That's just rap. A rap climb over our sustain. I do wish that sustain was a bit louder, but we have that through our sustain with the instrumentation pickup on that percussive, you know, those percussive tones are getting a bit more treble based than before. Nice. Every time we get those big impacts, we get a vocal layering that's very, very clean. I love the way those successive impacts are covered by the vocal layers, the multiple vocals on it. That was really, really nice. Nice. And now it seems like we're going towards the end of the song, so now we're just reinforcing those impacts and those cutouts. Really, it's those cutouts that really reinforce the impacts. And so by repeating those cutouts, we're building up without a tempo change, right? So we're keeping the tempo pretty consistent, right? But because those successive impacts, it's the same effect you'd get from a stutter. right? When you get like a stutter effect on vocals or anything really, you use that generally with a synth rise or something similar, and that helps you lead into a big impact for a transition. So now, since we're towards the ending and we don't want to transition towards a new segment necessarily, we're using those cutouts instead to reinforce the impact to lead us to a big conclusion, which is really, really nice. I really, really like the way we're using that. Tempo change. Nice. It's always scary if you've ever like tried your hand at like composing music or writing music. At least to me, it's always scary to mess with tempo changes because it throws everything for a loop, right? Changing up your tempo, especially for just these like split little moments here and there, and for the amount of tempo changes we've got it in the song to keep things cohesive even when you're switching up things. I mean, it's a very, very skillfully composed song we've got here, and I'm loving how those keys are being used to direct the song back to the final tempo that we're getting after the slowdown, or even after a speed up really. But I'm really hearing those keys after a slowdown. We're using those keys to pick up the tempo again, which is super, super fun. I really, really like that. Ooh, that was really, really nice. That was super well supported. We got that vocal rasp in it, that Y. That was really, really nice. I really like how MYSTA sang that out. Okay, that was the end. I'm sorry I paused so much right around the end. Probably took away a little bit from the impact, but that was a really, really nice. That was, I think, as far as a first and a last original song for MYSTA to release, I think, I don't think it gets much better than that. That was really, really good. I will say, I do really, really wish just we got a bit more of MYSTA's voice. I think MYSTA's voice should have had a higher priority in the mix. I do not think it needed to be that oh, my voice is like cracking. I'm sorry about that. But I don't think his voice needed to be that suppressed in the mix. Like MYSTA had some awesome, just control over his demeanor, and when he was switching between like a more of a nasally tonality compared to a very well supported and rounded out tonality, and then when he's adding that rasp into his voice, I mean, even his sustains as well, they were super, super clean. I actually really, really loved what MYSTA showed off here. I just wish it was a bit more prioritized in the mix, because to me, I'd say MYSTA's voice was treated, about on par in terms of priority with the synth. I'd say it was about as easy to hear MYSTA's voice as it was to hear the synth, which is not necessarily a bad thing. That's just a choice in terms of how you're mixing. And obviously, there are multiple vocal tracks which had different priorities. But I would say, I think in general, MYSTA's voice should have been louder. But that is a personal preference thing. But like nonetheless, that was really, really awesome. I mean, the way that was put together, Camellia always blows me away, but MYSTA did an excellent job matching Camellia's pace and making really the song into his own, because this very easily could have been a Camellia song featuring MYSTA, but I think it was successfully a MYSTA RIAS song that was produced by Camellia, and I'd say massive props to that. So yeah, I hope MYSTA continues doing music wherever he goes in the future. Maybe regardless of if he's, making songs or publishing them, I hope he at least continues, singing and, testing out his voice, seeing what he can do. And I'd love to see if he ever, produces something after NIJISANJI, though I suppose I may not know if it's MYSTA or not, but hopefully he at least continues with music. But yeah, nonetheless, thank you very much for watching, Thank you very much for recommending this. And as always, feel free to recommend more in the comments below. Aside from that, I will see you all next time. Thank you so much.